He occupied it, our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now the President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring people, you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country, that's backed you far more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war,
He's not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning. You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks in this cabinet, and not only in this cabinet.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. We gave you military equipment, and your men are brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment,
if you didn't have
our military equipment, this war would have been over In 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
maybe
new.
Less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this.
Again,
I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards.
Thankful.
You're buried there. Your people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go, and I wanted this. Look. If you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me.
For you what,
that wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
That was with Obama. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry, here.
It's going to be a tough deal to make, because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden, because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia, the 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam, and he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing.
I agree with you enough. Thank you for your patience today. We had a lighting problem, and we had to kind of do things on the fly. So thank you for your patience. I am as disgusted as you are with watching that, but we need to see it. I hope it makes you angry. I hope it makes you furious and up to here and out of patience for having this Russian asset sitting in our White House. These tiny, tiny, tiny little men trying to bully who is basically the leader of the free world right now. Volodymyr Zelenskyy is the de facto leader of the free world this week. Hope you didn't miss it. Donald Trump's illegitimate administration voted with North Korea, the ones that starve their people into submission, and Russia, the ones who poison and execute their political opponents, against the resolution condemning Russia for the invasion of Ukraine. It is now Donald Trump and his dictator friends against the free world. Thank God the leaders of just the last that I heard, but it's probably, the list has probably grown since now. Spain, Lithuania, Moldova, Germany, and Sweden came out with ringing defenses and endorsements of Zelenskyy and Ukraine after that spectacle of Russian propaganda from the American White House. It's supposed to be the shining city on a hill, the leader of the free world. We have no leader of the free world in America right now. We do not even have a president in America right now. We have a constitutionally disqualified insurrectionist Russian asset hijacking our institutions of power. You think it might be time to act? Please, I will remind you, as I started the show with, join us in Washington, D.C. on March 14th. We are demanding action now. We are saying enough is enough. We cannot stand for this. We must not think about the political strategies to handle this for the next 4 years or have the fantasy that we're going to have a normal election in 2 years from now. If we have a constitution, we have to abide by it. If we ever expect to be protected by it ever again, we have to use the levers that it gives us to stop this illegal action that we're witnessing, this internal coup, this hijacking. You know, the Democrats, I heard, didn't pay a ton of attention, but I heard that they came out today in rightful condemnation of what happened in the Oval Office. But one thing I don't hear from them yet, other than Representative Al Green, I don't hear them calling for impeachment and removal. I don't hear them saying he's an illegitimate president under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. I don't hear that. Where is it? Where is it? There is a guy who, a professor, a geopolitical professor, who has a YouTube channel. His name's Ulf Erlingsson, and he tagged me. And I want to read what he put in a video he just put up because it's really, really important to put these things in perspective right now. This is what he said. He said, a coup d'etat is per definition something that is not supposed to be noticed until it is fait accompli, meaning until it's done, till mission is accomplished. Many are still not aware of what is going on, but it is exactly now that one should act. The only good time to act is now. And he goes on to explain how Donald Trump is in fact a Russian asset sitting in our institutions of power, sitting in that White House. Unbelievable, unbelievable. He says they're removing history, silencing free speech. I know this very well. I lived it, 4 or 8 years ago. And going after free thinkers, this is an existential crisis, and World War III is all but guaranteed on this path. Now, you notice in that disgusting press conference that we just watched how Donald Trump tried to preface, listen to that, he tried to preface blaming a World War III on Volodymyr Zelenskyy, a man who represents a country who did nothing but exist democratically. Their democratic existence was a threat to their dictatorial, genocidal neighbor. That is what they did wrong in Donald Trump's book. The guy who could never get loved by his father and just had to go through his life lying to himself to pretend that he had any value, putting on a facade of power for years and years and years until it culminated in a presidency that he got with Russian help, God knows the first time, and basically pretty damn sure did not even legitimately win this time. And he so gaslit us 4 years ago when he committed that insurrection that disqualified him from holding office that we couldn't even look into the legitimacy of this election. So you got a man sitting there who committed treason, who is constitutionally disqualified, who is a Russian asset, if not Russian agent, dictating the terms of the free world. I think the Democratic leaders need to start shifting the paradigm of what they think of as acceptable narratives or acceptable platforms right now and start demanding his removal any means possible. Bring up his disqualification. I've had this conversation on Lights On, many times. I did it again last week. Talked to another constitutional scholar friend of mine today that kind of was telling me about his wrestlings about thinking, oh, is the Section 3 conversation dead? And he thought, you know what? It's not. And it is time that we have to stop while they burn everything down, thinking that we can just play by some neat little strategy. We have to be thinking outside the box. As I said last week with Caitlin Bird, these Democrats, or as she proposed, these Democrats could be raising the issue of his disqualification right now. They don't even have to physically bring up a bill or do anything. It's the conversation itself that establishes and acknowledges he is an illegitimate president. And then without a 2/3 amnesty vote to remove that disqualification, the entire country understands that we have an illegitimate president, which we do, which is hijacking our institutions, terrorizing our federal workers, enriching billionaires like Elon Musk, who I'm going to take some time today to share a story with you that I hadn't really had my eyes on until recently, that really should put a sick, pit in your stomach over the kinds of things that he is getting away with while he is ravaging our federal government. For God's sakes, the time is now. The time is now. Of course, I think you guys are celebrating the resistance against the oligarchy day, the total economic blackout. I can tell you, I joined you, didn't buy anything today, which I've said kind of in jest before. It's not terribly hard for me because I'm kind of like we have a running joke in my family that I have a shopping disorder, because if you ever go shopping with me, I can convince you not to buy anything unless you absolutely need it. So not particularly hard for me, but get in that habit. Definitely get in that habit. I mean, I'm in the habit of boycotting causes that I don't believe in and have been for years. I actually stopped eating meat when I was 10 years old and stopped wearing leather because it was a matter of conscience to me. So I've been boycotting Procter & Gamble for testing on animals for years. Don't buy their products, don't buy Colgate-Palmolive anymore since I learned they're on the list, so it's not hard. I can speak from experience, having done this for years. It might be a little uncomfortable and you got to make some adjustments and figure out what you can buy and can't buy at first, but my God, your conscience will be clean. And we really do. Today is a total economic blackout, but you can continue this. You can not shop at Whole Foods or buy from Amazon or, get on Twitter, or, you can, I don't think many of you are driving Teslas, but if any of you are, good time to think about another driving alternative. But, making these choices, it's really just a matter of switching it off for yourself, and it becomes easier and easier. And that pressure absolutely does work. So kudos to everybody who is engaged today in that economic blackout. I'm also going to have some more information for you about what to do on 3/4. Now, of course, we're doing the major protests in DC on 3/14, but there's some other very big protest activity happening on 3/4 around the country, spearheaded by 5051 and others. So I'm going to tell you all about that. But I just wanted to go back. I wanted to come on with you and share that Russian asset name at the top of the show, which I did. I wanted to recover that story that came out 2 weeks ago, which was, this is now the third. This is the third former intelligence officer to confirm that Donald Trump was recruited by the KGB. And this was the former head of Kazakhstan's intelligence service, a guy named Alnur Musayev. And he recently claimed in his Facebook post that Trump was recruited by the KGB in 1987, when a 40-year-old Trump first visited Moscow. So he then adds he became the third. Before him was a guy named Yuri Shvets, a former KGB major who is now a resident in Washington, D.C., and served as one of the key sources for a very popular book called American Compromat, How the KGB Cultivated Trump and Related Tales of Sex, Greed, Power, and Treachery by Craig Unger. And he followed yet another agent, or I should say another agent came out and confirmed his story when his story came out in that book. So it's 3 separate KGB agents located in different places and speaking at different times agree and corroborate this story that Donald Trump is a Russian asset named Krasnov, which I think is a little inappropriate of a name. It's Russian word for beautiful or beautiful person. That's very generous. I think we can all agree, but nonetheless, whether you believe that he is an actual agent or not, his behavior could not be more clear. His undermining of the democratic free world in favor of this man who has been clearly dictating his moves for years is abundantly clear. We don't even really need former KGB or agents to confirm this for us. It's just blatantly clear in front of us. So Democratic leaders, time to start shifting the paradigm when you think about how serious your action, your outrage, your calls for what should be done right now have to match the severity of the moment. They can't just be piecemeal. They can't be tepid. They can't be safe and cautious. They have to be constitutionally radical and legally radical and creative to meet this moment. Otherwise, we have no hope. So once again, please join us in Washington, D.C. on March 14th. I need you to go to nowmarch.org if you haven't already. We are rallying the masses to D.C. I had said before that we were wanting to possibly coordinate some mass transportation. I will tell you that is a massive feat that we do not have the capacity to do on our own. We did look into it financially and logistically. It would just be impossible. That said, I would highly, highly encourage, especially if you live on the Eastern Seaboard, anywhere in, Indiana, Ohio, Chicago, anywhere within driving distance of Washington, D.C., reach out to your local 5051 chapter. I know there's a very, very active one in D.C. I have a feeling there's, just from the presence on the ground, you could get in touch with people on 3, 4, if not other days, and possibly pool resources, do what we're doing. We're literally like a group of maybe half a dozen people, the core group behind this that are putting this together. We are not seasoned organizers. We are not political strategists. We are just concerned citizens. So if you can use the spirit that we are using and employ that to crowdsource, to, get a bunch of people together, to contract a bus, post a GoFundMe and tag me and I will retweet it if you were trying to raise money for these kinds of things. Do whatever you can to get there on March 14th. This has to be a history-making and a history-changing moment. We have to change the course of history on March 14th. If I haven't made that clear before, let me make it clear now. We don't have time to waste. We need to make our presence unmistakable and let those people know what needs to be done. Peacefully let them know what needs to be done and who has the power here. In a constitutional republic, it is we the people. And right now, the man who is claiming the power has violated each and every one of us. So we need to take our stand on March 14th. Let me tell you about a few of the other things that I know to be going on. So, of course, I've told you before, I've been in contact with the 5051, especially in D.C., because, of course, our event's going to be in D.C., and they're working in affiliation with us, which is great. And they're always, of course, wanting to amplify. They themselves are grassroots, and they want to amplify any other protests that are going on, because it's about all of us right now, and it's about everybody coming together to reject this. One event that they have going on March 4th that I want to put on your radar is two things, actually. Another 50-state, 50-capital protest on March 4th. Go there. Actually, like I said a minute ago, great opportunity to connect with others about getting yourselves together and pooling resources to DC on March 14th. But it's also a very important day to protest this illegitimate State of the Union by this illegitimate president. So 50 states, 50 capitals on Tuesday on March 4th. Just show up peacefully. Show up peacefully. Show up this time, like I said before, with your signs that say impeach and remove. Get out of our house. Remove him now. Let's be very, very clear about our objectives and what needs to be done. Other thing I want to put on your radar is this event that 5051 DC is putting on. And there was a lot of confusion out there about whether they were staging a DC event on March 4th. And, I've been on the back ends communicating with them a lot. That was a miscommunication from someone that was not within their group. They themselves have not organized a DC protest on the 4th. What they have done is they are hosting a virtual We the People's State of the Union. And I put the link to it in the description to this video. You can also go to linktree.com/5051DC to get the link. But I highly encourage joining that Zoom. I think the last conversation I had, they have almost 2,000 people registered for this. It's going to be huge. It's a very big counter narrative, counter programming event for the State of the Union. And there's a good chance I'll be on there. So if you want to join me, come join me on Tuesday night on the We the People State of the Union with 5051 DC. One other thing I will say about the State of the Union before we get there is I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweet out or post on Blue Sky. By the way, the only place that I'm on Instagram when I have to be, and TikTok when I absolutely have to be. I actually was on a TikTok live for the first time last night with Casey Votes. Shout out to Casey Votes. But I am most frequently on Blue Sky. So definitely follow me there at Jessica Denson 07 if you're not already. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted out or posted out, what should Democrats be doing at the State of the Union? And I'm like, well, here's your golden opportunity. My God almighty, here is your golden opportunity. First of all, I don't think they should show up. And one other idea that's maybe just a little addition to my idea is if you're going to show up at all, show up and then walk out as an entire caucus together. Just everybody get together and walk out of the building. And then hold a press conference outside, or wait till it's over if everybody's going to be airing it, and then have your press conference. And guess what needs to be said at this press conference? Donald Trump needs to get out of the White House now. He is an enemy of the state. He is an enemy of the free world. He is inhabiting that office in violation of our Constitution, and he has committed numerous impeachable offenses starting on day one. So many impeachable offenses that we can't keep track of them. But thank you. Thankfully, some people are keeping track. We have friends over at Free Speech for People who are keeping track. They have a petition. I'll remind you to go over and sign that if you haven't already at impeachtrumpagain.org. impeachtrumpagain.org. They'll keep tabs for you in case you're getting a little lost in the absolute 5-alarm fire that's going on in our country right now. So that's what Democrats should be doing. They should be protesting by not attending or walking out en masse as a caucus and using that night as the opportunity to say, Donald Trump is an illegal president and he has to go. And by the way, my God, are the people looking for a hero? We are looking for a hero. Do you understand, Democrats, how much support you will have if you take that leadership stance? Do you understand that? Donald Trump got less than a third. If you take the numbers at face value, less than a third of registered voting adults voted with him. And then you can put into that equation all of the people that have been horrified at having voted for him after what they've seen him do in this first month and however many days we're into this. The masses are against him. We, the people, are looking for leadership. There's your opportunity, Democrats. There's your opportunity to ever possibly win another election in the United States of America and not become Hungary or Russia, because it's on you right now. And we need you to step up. It is damn serious. So there's your opportunities. Number one, need you to go to nowmarch.org. Nowmarch.org. Please, 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 if it's possible in any way, shape, or form, be there with us on March 14th. If not, you can support us financially, and we do need that too. I don't want to understate the need for financial support. It is a massive production. There are a lot of expenses associated with that, and we are just doing this on our own. So if you want to support us in a way and you can't physically be there, we would love that. We appreciate it so much. There's a donate button there at nowmarch.org. After you do that, go to freespeechforpeople.com or freespeechforpeople.org, impeachtrumpagain.org, and then go to the 5051 link tree or the Zoom invitation that I have down in the description, and hopefully join us on Tuesday. I also have 2 really amazing guests coming up next week on Lights On. You know, I say it all the time, you know, Lights On is the home for action. I'm so grateful for these educated, experienced, learned academics and historians that are adding their names to this conversation fearlessly right now, that are willing to stand out and not be afraid and do the work that is actually going to save us. So I have two really, really good interviews coming up next week. One is a constitutional scholar. The other is a historian who knows how quickly democracy can die because of his study of Germany in the 30s. So you don't want to miss either one of them. Please subscribe, by the way, to the Jessica Denson YouTube channel. I'm always forgetting them. My priorities are getting information to you, not you know, self-promotion. But I should do this up top because you guys need to be able to get this message. And I will tell you, content suppression is a thing. I get messages all the time that people say this is not showing up on their feed. So I need you to subscribe to the Jessica Denson YouTube channel, share this channel, share this content anywhere you can, like, comment, all those things help the algorithm. I'm not a big one on talking about numbers, but I do want to take a minute to mention how beautifully this channel has grown since I left Meidastouch after the election. I think I went from somewhere like under 10,000 subscribers to, what are we at now? 92, 90, 93. We're going to be at 100 pretty soon. I want to thank you so much for being part of this Lights On community, for following me and my work, for most of all, being involved yourself in this fight and understanding the stakes and your place in history. That's incredibly special to be standing with you in this moment. So to everybody who is subscribed to the Jessica Denson YouTube channel, who has bought merch, who has contributed to my legal fund, who has showed up at a rally in the bitter cold, who has donated at Now March, all of you guys, you are incredible. You're amazing. You're the reason that even on a day like today, when my lights are falling apart and I'm dealing with planning a protest and I have a million other things and can't feel like I can get up a show, I do it for you. So thank you so much for being here with me. It means the world. And thank you for helping me to continue to grow this, because we have to do that and we can't do it. I need you to do it with me. So I promised a couple of things. I promised a really horrific story. And I was telling you about how I stopped eating meat and stopped wearing leather when I was 10 years old. And animal welfare is really, really, really close to my heart, because to me, how we treat the voiceless, whether it's an animal or a person, says everything about who we are as human beings. That's the real test of our character, I think, how we treat those who can't speak for themselves. And when you think about what Elon Musk is doing to our federal government in the name of getting rid of waste and abuse, which we know is a complete scam, when he's really protecting himself from scrutiny, from accountability, and harming so many living creatures in the process, it truly, truly makes your stomach turn. I'm going to put up an article. This is from a couple of years ago, but it says Musk's Neuralink faces federal inquiry after killing 1,500 animals in testing. After killing 1,500 animals in testing. In all, this article says the company has killed about 1,500 animals, including more than 280 sheep, pigs, and monkeys, following experiments since 2018, according to records reviewed by Reuters. And this article is over 2 years old, so God knows how many animals they've killed by now. Now, there was scrutiny of Neuralink at the USDA. And even under Biden's administration, they were getting away with it. His company, Neuralink, violated the Federal Welfare Act and received a free pass from the agency responsible for enforcing the law. And that was told to members of Congress during Biden's administration. So they were getting a free pass from the USDA. Here's a story. This is really gonna, close your ears if you're really sensitive. But in September 2018, the Neuralink neurosurgeon drilled into the skull of a female rhesus macaque known only as Animal 21 and filled holes with adhesive, a glue. The next day, that animal lost coordination and balance, experienced paralysis in both legs, and was suffering from depression. The day after that, she was seen gasping, retching, and collapsed from exhaustion fatigue. When staff finally euthanized her and conducted a necropsy, they discovered bioglue was covering and compressing a large area of the left cerebrum, and blood had built up on the surface of her brain. They also found acute ulcers in her esophagus, likely due to vomiting and blood in her stomach. Okay, guys, I know this is terrible to listen to. This is the kind of torture that is going on so Elon Musk can make millions of dollars over with a brain implant that there are absolutely humane alternatives to. So they're torturing monkeys, torturing pigs, torturing animals. USDA is giving them a pass. Who is the backstop here? Who is the government watchdog that would say, what's happening at this federal agency is not okay? Inspector General, ethics people, the watchdogs that we have in place to make sure these things don't happen. Fast forward to January 29th, when security agents escorted the Inspector General of the USDA out of her office after she refused to comply with her firing by the Trump administration. This is Phyllis Wong, 22-year veteran of the department. It was because in 2022, the Inspector General's office launched an investigation of Elon Musk's brain implant startup Neuralink, which remains ongoing. And they also, of course, the watchdog of the USDA is in charge of so many important public health, not just animal welfare, like human welfare initiatives, from abuse at dog breeders to, issues like the bird flu and listeria outbreaks at major meat manufacturers and other very, very significant public health issues. So, that's kind of what I tell people, someone who cares so deeply about animals. Ultimately, it goes back to human welfare too. It's not, life is not a zero-sum game. What blesses one blesses all. And when we're torturing our fellow beings, it can't ultimately be doing anything to bless us. But here is a really sick example of how Elon Musk is ravaging the federal government with the permission of this illegal president to prevent scrutiny of sick, torturous abuses that his company carries out. Just one example. I mean, this is just an anecdote. Of course, you all know the horror show we're living through. Yesterday and today, there was, thank God, beautiful support for the workers of USAID who were given 15 minutes in Washington, D.C., the fired USAID workers, to go in and retrieve their belongings after they had been fired from this very important humanitarian work that they are committed to. 15 minutes to go in and retrieve their belongings. And there were a lot of people. I saw so many people yesterday and today in the 50-51 discussion that I'm part of in DC, cheering on and encouraging people to go and show up for those USAID workers. They're also out there in the streets cheering on Ukraine and supporting Ukraine. The people are showing up everywhere, and the people are against this. The people are against it. We don't have to cede our power to this guy. He doesn't have it legally. We do not have to obey it. It's very important to understand that. Some of you guys have been pointing me to a YouTube channel called 10th Amendment Center. And it's just, really raw constitutional history and explaining why we, the people, do not have to obey illegal orders. And nullification is a thing when a government that has no authority is trying to enact power over the people without a constitutional basis. We have to understand our foundation here and get back to it. And if we don't act from that premise in a really peacefully but big radical way, we're going to lose it all right now. That is what we're living through right now. We are losing it unless we step up and save it right now. So one other story I'm going to mention to you before I get to Meidastouch, and that is what's going on in the Supreme Court. You guys probably heard this, that yesterday the Supreme Court bought Donald Trump some time They bought him some time. They are, of course, this is one of the going to be major indications of Donald Trump completely disregarding our checks and balances and our separations of power. They have already been in defiance of federal judges' orders to release funds that were frozen. These, of course, are funds that are appropriated by Congress. The executive branch does not have the authority to freeze these funds. In this particular instance, aid organizations have accused Trump of exceeding his authority under federal law and the Constitution by effectively dismantling an independent federal agency and canceling spending authorized by Congress. Among the plaintiffs in this litigation are the AIDS Vaccine Advocacy Coalition, Journalism Development Network, International Development Company, and Refugee Assistance Organization, HIAS. Now, the Trump administration has kept payments to these organizations frozen despite a temporary restraining order from a federal judge that they be released and multiple subsequent orders that the administration comply. What did the Supreme Court do yesterday? They bought Donald Trump some time. They bought into the argument from the Solicitor General from the so-called United States administration that they simply couldn't reverse the funding freeze. It just wasn't possible. They couldn't possibly comply with the judge's orders in this short amount of time. I mean, it takes time to make things run again. And I read through this just thinking, my God, it took them the flip of a switch to cut off the funding. And now they're arguing, oh, but please, it takes us time. We can't comply with the judge's orders so fast. And so what does the Supreme Court do? They buy him time. Heard arguments today. As of the airing of this show, as of me coming on, I have not heard an update, but they heard arguments today. They stopped the deadline from the lower court for the Trump administration to comply, basically making it easier for him to continue in violation of the Constitution and not making him step over this threshold where he is evidently defying judges' orders. So we're in a really dangerous place, and we need radical, righteous, legal, peaceful, brave, courageous action every single day to stop it. And when I say every single day, I mean like today, yesterday. And that, my friends, brings me to Meidastouch. Now, why am I still talking about Meidastouch, and do I even really care about Meidastouch? I really don't. Like, I for those of you that think like I'm personally hurt about leaving that network, it couldn't be further from the truth. I feel like a free bird. I even put a message out to Joy Reid. I said, when I left Meidastouch, I felt free to soar. And I think you're leaving MSNBC, you will feel the same. I decided to leave that network because they didn't want to talk about things that we needed to talk about. So I don't have any animosity or hurt feelings. That was my decision, and I feel beautiful about it. Why do I care about what they're doing? Same reason I care about what the Democrats in Congress are doing. It's because they have enormous, enormous influence. They have a platform that they could be using to help people to do and say what's needed right now. And they have a lot of people that count on them. They have a lot of people that give them money. They have a lot of people that think that they're just this independent bootstrap kind of operation when they literally went into this venture, hardworking as they are, and they definitely are, as multimillionaires. So that's who Meidastouch is, just to, be clear about who they are. But they've gotten so much press over the past week because they succeeded Joe Rogan in the podcast charts, and they were on MSNBC, which is actually kind of ironic. Same week that, Joy Reid and Ayman Mohyeldin and Jonathan Capehart get kicked out of my MSNBC platforms, the three white brothers at Meidastouch. But anyway, listen, what got me is the headline that I saw for their segment on MSNBC, and it said, "We are fearless and independent," or "It's time for fearless reporting." It's time for fearless reporting. Okay, so if you've been watching Lights On and you know why I left them to cover First, the election anomalies, which is not a tinfoil hat issue, which is something that has been backed by election security experts, computer scientists, and data analysts, not a tinfoil hat conspiracy issue thing. When you know that that's why I left them, and when you know that they shut down the conversation about Section 3, to hear them say, we're the home for fearless independent reporting, kind of hits a little different, right? And then I don't do it a lot, but I decided to look at some of their headlines over on the Meidastouch YouTube channel. And just a few of them. It says, time to panic, Donnie. Trump in panic as his term quickly collapses. Trump's worst nightmare. Trump goes psycho as MAGA turns against him. Trump headed for brutal ending at SCOTUS. And it kind of makes me sick because they tried to frame what I was doing as either false hope or magical thinking. That was the really disgusting one, magical thinking from Michael Popak. And here you have Trump headed for brutal ending at SCOTUS. That's some pretty magical thinking. These Supreme Court justices are in his pocket. They put out a ruling that enables him to commit crimes while he's a president of the United States with immunity. He's not headed for a brutal ending at SCOTUS. Time to panic, Donnie? I mean, maybe time to panic if you guys get on our side and start reminding we the people of the power we have, but not time to panic because of some flub that you're going to like put on a gotcha moment of a video. That is really, really false hope to your audience. But here's my challenge to Meidastouch. Here's my challenge to Meidastouch, because as Ben Meiselas said, when I first came on his podcast with his brothers, going on 3 years ago now, he was talking, about all the wonderful things I did as a pro se litigant against Trump. And he would often remind the viewers on Meidastouch that what I accomplished as a pro se litigant, many lawyers could not do. So there's a reminder for anybody who accuses me of being a wannabe lawyer or not a lawyer. I don't want to be a lawyer. I just love the law and think we need to use it. But at the end of that interview with Ben, he said something like, in the context of me having worked for Trump and then being on the right side, he said, it's never too late to do the right thing. Never too late to do the right thing. So here's my challenge for you, Meidastouch. It is never too late to do the right thing. I really do want you to be fearless and independent. I want you to meet the moment that we are facing. I want you to take that influence with your 4 million followers on YouTube alone, with all of those Patreon subscribers that give you that hardworking, hard-earned money to support, your multimillionaire venture. I want you to use that platform to really be fearless and independent and pro-Constitution. Oh, there's another thing that came out in the MSNBC interview. I'm like, wow, they're pro-Constitution now. Okay, great. Pro-Constitution. Okay, here's my challenge, Meidastouch. We need you to talk about the protests, and we need you to talk specifically about 314. Because like I said earlier, 314 has to be the date that we make history and change history. We can't afford to wait anymore. And by the way, this isn't my movement. This is the people's movement. I've just had the honor of organizing it. So don't feel any personal attachment. You don't even have to say my name. I know you don't like to say my name anymore. So you don't even have to say my name. Just tell people to show up on 314 in Washington, D.C. Tell them to go to nowmarch.org. Tell them to join the veterans. We've got some amazing allies in the veteran community that are getting out their community to support this Constitution, this country on 314. So Meidastouch, talk about this movement to save our country on 314. Put it on the map. Use your influence for good. Don't just keep your viewers in a spinning wheel of, rage and outrage and keeping them coming back to you thinking that they're getting somewhere. Give them something to actually do and save this country. Be fearless, be independent. Send your followers to Washington, D.C. on March 14th. So, you guys, I need you to go to the Meidastouch wherever, videos, chats, whatever. I need you to flood their comments with Now DC, hashtag Now DC, nowmarch.org, 314. Don't leave them alone. If they're going to be out there with this massive platform claiming that they're pro-democracy and pro-constitution, make them actually be that, because it's never too late, Ben Meiselas, to do the right thing. I'm here for you, buddy. So, all right, guys, thank you so much for being with me. As always, you know how much I love you and I'm here for you, as I told you earlier in the show. Thank you for the patience with the lighting issues. Thank you for treating today as a total economic blackout with me. Get in the habit of doing it more often. Show up on March 4th in your state capital. Meet some friends who want to carpool to DC on the 14th. Boycott the State of the Union with 5051 DC by going to their virtual State of the Union if you can't be somewhere in person. Join me next week on Lights On with very, very important conversations. And go to nowmarch.org. Did I say it before? Let me say it again. Nowmarch.org. Really easy website to remember. Nowmarch.org. We need the masses. And if you want to support us financially, that would be beautiful, because it's expensive to put on a production like this. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with me today. The way also to support me directly is at thejessicadenson.com/donate. thejessicadenson.com/donate. If you want to wait until midnight as part of your economic blackout, fine. But after that, you can also check out my merch, which is mostly about getting out the word and Lights On and emphasizing the motto that I emphasize to everyone from Timothy Snyder's book, the chapter that tells us what we really need to do to make a change. Stand out. It's uncomfortable. You might be alone in the beginning, but courage is contagious. Others will follow. So that's all at thejessicadenson.com. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. You're right to be enraged. You're right to think this is insane and disgusting, and channel that rage and that energy into peaceful, unrelenting protest against this coup. Have a wonderful weekend, and always let your light shine.